I'm Alex Jones, your host. Again, thank you so much for joining us. One of my daughters, born on Valentine's Day, a little sweetie. So we always celebrate our birthdays on the same day because I'm born just a couple days before her on the old Aquarian calendar. Wow, there's so much to talk about. Such a big time right now. I woke up at 3:30 a.m. this morning, and I knew as I went to the computer, because I went to bed pretty early last night, that it was going to be that Flynn had resigned or been fired, because I knew that was going to happen 2 days ago. But I just, what's the fun of being the first to report something like that? You know, the Mitt Romney thing I told you about a month before and 2 weeks before, that he was being played with and toyed with. And I had that directly from about as high as it can go. The Flynn information, I can just read the tea leaves and made a few phone calls. And this is all a great example of how they get everybody running scared. They kept saying during the campaign, has anybody talked to Russians? And they said no. And, of course, they were spying on everybody in the Trump campaign and knew that wasn't the case. They hadn't talked to them. But once you're president-elect, your designated national security advisor is supposed to start talking to the Chinese leaders, the Russian leaders, the Israeli leaders, and Flynn talked to all of them. And they asked, did you talk about sanctions with the Russians? He said no. And then they reportedly have the recording and the transcript where the Russian ambassador brings up, well, we want to talk to Trump about sanctions and how that can go and what we can do to get that done. He said, and this has come out now. He said, well, you know the president-elect's policy. He wants an open door and a clean slate. But I can't talk specifics about sanctions, but I'm sure he'll be ready to talk about those when he talks to President Putin. And they went, ladies and gentlemen, we got a firestorm on our hands. Flynn lied. He did talk to the Russians. He talked about sanctions. Now, if somebody calls up an auto parts store and you're the manager, somebody says, I'd like to talk to you about buying your auto parts place. You say, well, I'm not the owner. He's on vacation. He gets back in a couple days, but I know he's been talking about wanting to sell it. So, mister, just send us your information, and I'm sure he'll be getting back with you. Does that turn into the auto parts store manager was like trying to sell our business with ever having the permission? Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Kissinger is the top advisor to Vladimir Putin. One reason I don't particularly trust Putin at some levels. The mega globalist, reportedly a Soviet spy during World War II, a double agent, codenamed Bohr. That's been leaked information. That's why you know so many of the secrets. Oh, yeah, the living fossil was a major assistant, kind of like a Reince Priebus, to the OSS with the Rockefellers, with David Rockefeller. Now, it's not known that David Rockefeller was in the OSS. I just released that information. But I have that on good sources and intel to back it up. He was certainly in Nazi Germany before the war started, taking lots of photos and meeting with lots of top Nazis because his daddy was a heavy investor. The point is that the Rockefellers are on record having major plants inside Russia and inside Germany and made monies off all three sides of the war. There were three sides to it. It wasn't two sides. There were two sides at the end, three sides at the beginning. Look it up. Those are like stubborn things like facts. Being cursed with them, being cursed to be informed, and then watching people run around and go away, USA, KKK. That's all they know. While meanwhile, their whole future is being destroyed by the globalists, and they're running around going, Donald Trump's a Russian agent. What Donald Trump has done, and when I've told people 1,000 times, and what's crazy is it's in mainstream news today admitting what I'm saying is true, that Trump is grabbing globalism away from the multinationals that stole it using U.S. money, power, and influence, and is actually trying to use globalism to block the communist Chinese, reform Europe, and have an alliance with Europe, the UK, Israel, Japan, and any other free country wants to have trade, and we'll build lots of golf courses and hotels and factories. A pro-human president leading America. And they had now admitted in Bloomberg and Reuters and Google and News and Yahoo and Politico. It's Trump versus the globalist. Why, just 2 months ago, the New York Times said Alex Jones is crazy. He believes in something called the globalist. That was the old propaganda of the last 20 years, and they got laughed at so hard. In 3 articles they wrote in 1 week, one of them had me in the headline. What is this globalism? Does it exist that Alex Jones talks about? It's like, what is this toucan? Do toucan birds exist? Yeah, there it is, globalism, a far-right conspiracy theory buoyed by Trump. And then it goes on to say, it's racist and it doesn't exist and Alex Jones is insane. Well, that's solid BS gold, isn't it? But notice now it's not that. I have a stack of mainstream news today where they're like, world government's in total crisis. They're going to find out about the derivatives and the scams we've run. We've got to start killing people. They've already got all their Sarah Silvermans and all their rappers and music people and movie stars saying kill Trump. And they've got major publications calling for his death because, ladies and gentlemen, these people have committed so many crimes, the globalists, that if Trump keeps going, it's over. You notice Jerry Sandusky's son just got arrested for procuring children for the globalists. And, of course, Sandusky, I've told you, was a procurer. You take one look at that soulless ringwraith, and you have to understand he got in trouble because he was dipping into his boss's goodie bag. And you can't have Renfield sucking blood himself. You're not a vampire, bro. You bring us the goodies. I told you there's going to be more arrests in Penn State. Told you that on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is the #1 podcast in world history, which they're also trying to block on the charts at Google Play and iTunes and everywhere else. Joe's tweeted that out. It's confirmed. Still, it's #1. I know it's only got 45 million views or something now. It would have 200, 300 million. I mean, you saw the algorithm. You just couldn't have that. It couldn't have 3 or 4 times the Super Bowl because you probably couldn't ignore that. But ignore 40 million. That'll be easier, of course. But that's on all the different platforms, over 40 million views. And they did block it when it went total viral. They just put a governor on it and stopped it. By the way, Leanne McAdoo was pointing this out to me last night. We were doing a live report. And I went and looked it up last night to show I don't know much. That's why it's important for people to keep me informed. They'd called a month ago for taking Donald Trump's Twitter away. But that was a little too anti-free speech. That might be too obvious to take the president's Twitter away. Got to discredit him a little bit first. People might actually go, wait, we have something called free speech here. So they now don't let any of the positive comments or good tweets get to him because he tweets back and communicates with people and sees stuff he thinks is interesting. That's a portal he's looking into. So they want to isolate him as much as they can into the White House Priebus cult. And so they've got it set now where only the negative comments are in the top 100. So they've really suspended Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's up there wondering why suddenly he's getting nothing but negative feedback because they put a filter on there of only people that are attacking him, thinking he's not tech savvy. And then I'd imagine the trusted people come in and say, look, sir, it's getting negative. See? Sir, give us your cell phone. Don't talk to anyone anymore. In fact, you're not allowed to talk to the Russians. That means you're a Russian spy. Think about how dumb they think we are. Ronald Reagan went and did the deals with Russia, and then Congress ratified it. But that's what a president can go sign treaties if he wants. The president is co-equal to Congress and the courts. Hell, the liberals were arguing he's above them all, but not now. But they're on there going, he talked to Putin a couple times. He's talking about meeting Putin. And they've so bullied Trump and his administration that they're backing off even in this foreseeable meeting with Putin. Oh, my gosh, all the other presidents meet with the Russian president. But see, you can't because, well, you're not the president, sir. Reince Priebus and Paul Ryan are. And look, just be nice, and John McCain and Lindsey Graham will stop trying to overthrow you. Bull. They hate you. They're not men. They're scum. And they don't like you because you've told law enforcement across the country they're green-lighted to go after the pedophile networks no matter how or how far they go and how hard it is to deal with for the country. Yeah, Trump's not using blackmail like the Democrats do with their pedophile rings, and the Republicans are involved as well. Trump's burning it all down. So that's what's going on in this country, is you got a bunch of scum on top who are into really bad stuff, and even get into their club, you've got to do horrible things, and they know their whole party is in trouble. Let's skip this break. They know that their whole shindig is in trouble because they went so far publicly saying they were going to teach pedophilia to kids, sexualizing them, publicly trying to legalize NAMBLA, publicly saying mothers and fathers are bad, publicly saying there's 50 and then 100 genders and you can't have a men's bathroom or a women's bathroom because somebody else might not be a man or a woman, just to make you feel bad for existing. Total societal attack. And the intelligence agencies can't help but run across all the weird occultic stuff that the elites are into. It runs the gamut, but it's just an entire sewer of different garbage floating through it with the things they're into. But it's all about hurting innocents, degrading people, dominating, enslaving. That's why they've got, 50 Shades of Grey, then a new one comes out and it's more intense, and now people are getting killed being part of it, and, choking to death, and the hospitals are having all these emergency calls. And then next it'll be, killing somebody. And then next, raping a child. See, that's how successive approximation. People say, well, it is kind of fun to slap your wife on the butt. They like it. Well, that's not hurting somebody. That's fun. They like it. You like it. That's not actually hurting somebody. But they take something innocent like that, and then they extrapolate it out to the UN saying, legalize men being able to pick up children up to 5 years old. If your 5-year-old or your son or daughter wants to go out with some pot-bellied pedophile that comes knocking on your door, the UN and some countries like Sweden are actually looking at legalizing it, saying, oh, your child can have man-boy love. And then Salon has articles about what's wrong with fantasizing about a 4-year-old or 5-year-old girl with some, again, soft, weird, super ultra beta male kind of gremlin Renfield type on there licking his lips. I mean, and again, that's a Renfield, folks. That's not, you don't see the Draculas unless Chucky Schumer's out in daylight. That's one. That's a Renfield. And then Schumer, and I'm not saying Schumer's involved in anything like all the stuff we heard about in New York. I'm just saying spiritually. That's my opinion, that has a Renfield spirit and there's a Dracula spirit. But you notice the servants of this always look like that guy. Well, let's pull up Sandusky's son, out reportedly, been indicted for trying to procure children. Who's he procuring them for? Who's he trying to get them in the van for? Look at those eyes. That's somebody been tortured hard. That's somebody under mind control. That's a grabber, not a drinker. Because let me tell you, they ain't just raping them. Renfield's rape, Dracula's kill. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, and remember who you're siding with. Just remember. Because whatever you do, you're going to pay for in this life and the next. So they think they've had a big victory. They're having a big celebration right now. That they brought down the former head of Defense Intelligence who reorganized the Pentagon, got the different branches working together, successfully developed plans to stop radical Islamic jihad terror worldwide, blocked, then had to watch the Arab Spring turned loose and our military being ordered to resupply and supply Al-Qaeda forces out of Saudi Arabia, then watch the name change to ISIS to confuse the public, as from everybody from Colonel Schaefer to Rand Paul to Ted Cruz to myself to countless others, expose what was really happening. And so Trump learned about this, admired the people involved. Well, there were a lot of other generals involved, but Flynn led the charge. He got fired by Obama for it. Trump brought in Flynn. Flynn thinks he's completely normal, completely good. He wasn't violating the Logan Act for his own personal gain to discuss foreign deals or policy at a non-official governmental meeting. He was on the phone lining up phone calls for the president-elect, public phone calls he made days later. And they set it all up with a public, politically ignorant on average, that the National Security Advisor, incoming, on December 15th, had a conversation with the Russian ambassador. You can go back and look. Every transition team, going back to when they put the red phone in, back in the early 60s, every single transition team talked to their counterparts. In fact, you do that in the weeks before you even get in office. And that's totally normal. But see, they set the agendas. They set the rules where if you put mother or father on your first grade, entrance papers when you move, put your kid in school, they call you in. They say, we don't have mother and father. You have to use these code abbreviations not to hurt anybody's feeling. You're being inducted into a cult. To not say mother, Carol Jones, father, David Jones. No, you just say whatever that particular school has a code word or an acronym, and then there's new ones, and you learn the language you're allowed to use. Well, same thing. The media said, you don't talk to the Russians, Trump. You're a Russian agent. Trump's like, I don't know anything about the Russians, but I know Putin is a nationalist and really pulled out of globalism and is doing more for his country than what happened under globalism. And I want to use American power through all the power we have to actually empower our country. And they even have Foreign Affairs and other publications from the Council on Foreign Relations and the Washington Post coming out. I'm going to read some of these articles coming up. And admitting, okay, Trump really does want to make America take over globalism and actually make it free market and not have a bunch of war. And just we're not going to let him do that. And the Russians actually are scared of this, too, because it's going to be so effective and so big that it'll make the U.S. so powerful. What will they do to Russia? But then they go on and say, but they do hope for their own nationalism. So this puts Putin between a rock and a hard place. So some Russians are actually wanting to get rid of Trump now. And that's really what's going on, because the globalists are reaching out to Russia saying, listen, you don't want to be part of this because this is going to end all of the corporate imperialism that all these major power sectors are involved in, the Russians, the Chinese, and the United States. The euro is a fundamentally abusive system meant to destroy sovereignty, meant to destroy cultures, and meant to turn people into debtor slaves. That's in their founding documents. It was a corporate takeover by stealth. That's falling apart of its own weight. So they brand everything as a Russian conspiracy because, as I've said 1,000 times, the Russians began to pull out of globalism 18 years ago, 19 years ago. What's interesting is, it doesn't mean they're perfect, it just means they're trying to become sovereign again. And Trump recognizes that under globalism, we are diminished, even though our great strength and will built it. They hijacked the Renaissance nation to build the global tyranny. And in the final quarter, Trump is trying to reverse the tables on them. And even if they kill Trump, even if they end up wrecking him down the road, because great positive things are happening, but this is a death battle. In my words and in their words. I'll call it a death battle for years. They call it a death battle with the illiberal West. That's George Soros. That's in the news today. We must stop the illiberal West from messing up our world government, where it's a bunch of rich billionaires saying, we're going to merge with machines and be God. Merge with it or be destroyed. I mean, that's in the news today. Elon Musk, merge with machines or be obsolete. I mean, it's, you will assimilate. We are the Borg. We do not offer any quarter. Submit to us. And it's not like you even merge with a machine. Everybody else is just to be drugged up, phased out, sterilized, bye-bye. So, I mean, we're given a total black flag with a skull and bones on it by the globalists saying we're never going to surrender, and by the way, we're going to torture you to death. See, a black flag means no surrender. A white flag means surrender. Everybody knows that. What does a skull and crossbones on a flag mean? It was on flags before pirates adopted it on boats. If a military started getting used to some of the Crusades, put that on a flag, it meant we're going to kill everybody. If there's blood dripping off the skeleton, it means we're going to torture you too. And skull and bones, the whole globalist deal is a skull and crossbones. It means, and they worship pirates. We're going to overrun you. we're going to rape you, we're going to kill you. You understand? No quarter. So our military now knows about this. It's been decompartmentalized. I've exposed it. Drudge has exposed it. Ron Paul's exposed it. Countless others have exposed it. People in the military were able to go look this up, find out it was true, decompartmentalize, realize we were being double-crossed by Islamic operations. Wasn't just a destabilization of the Middle East, like the military had been told. They were like, all right, fine, have them all kill each other. That was bad enough, see? No, you can't use evil for good and then have it turn out to be good. See, it was really a double-cross to flood us as well and bring us down. The military caught that in mid-sentence, right when they were going to turn us over to Islam, in free speech, go after the Christians, take our guns, all of it. And our military and intelligence agencies said no, but there's now an internal civil war inside the intelligence agencies trying to overthrow Trump, and they're now in open rebellion at the State Department. That's admitted, with the media saying kill Trump. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, see, I told you so, that communist Chinese-style net censorship was coming to the web, because it's already here. It's being announced. The way you keep the internet open and free is you get involved more than ever. Go to Infowars.com/app. A new battleship in the fight. Infowars Live, available right now. We're looking for a crew to man it. You going to sit down and play games and be a trendy? Or are you going to be part of history? Don't sit by and let the internet and free speech be stolen from you. Take action.